Okay, doc%, here we go. In defense of the minimum captures leaderboards, first of all, I obviously care about minimum captures more than most people. My goal is to re-establish the leaderboards is based on my passion for the category. This is, at its core, a biased opinion. Despite this, I still feel there is a very strong case, supported by logical reasoning, for the existence of an easily accessible and public minimum captures leaderboard on speedrun.com. I hope that you'll give this an honest read-through and consider my arguments in good faith. Leaderboard moderators, point 1. There is no reason to have minimum captures on a leaderboard because it merely can be done as a speedrun rather than having the purpose of being a speedrun. With point 1, the part of the statement saying it merely can be done as a speedrun is 100% correct. Minimum captures is something that can be done as a speedrun. It is not explicitly or implicitly. Or in defense of the minimum captures leaderboards. First of all, I obviously care about minimum captures more than most people. My goal is to re-establish the leaderboards is based on my passion for the category. This is, at its core, a biased opinion. Despite this, I still feel that there's a very strong case, supported by logical reasoning, for the existence of an easily accessible and public minimum captures leaderboard on speedrun.com. I hope that you'll give this an honest read-through and consider my arguments in good faith. Leaderboard moderates point 1. There's no reason to have minimum captures on a leaderboard because it merely can be done as a speedrun rather than having the purpose of being a speedrun. With point 1, the part of the statement saying it merely can be done as a speedrun is 100% correct. Minimum captures is something that can be done as a speedrun. It is not explicitly or implicitly stated as an in-game goal. There is no reward for beating the game with the minimum amount of captures. It is habituary, at least within the context of the game alone. This is clearly different from the main board speedruns, where the goal of the speedrun is simply to beat the game or complete a major goal defined within the kingdom, obtain the world peace achievement, beat Darkside Kingdom, etc. The conclusion I have, though, is on category extensions and leaderboards. Category extension leaderboards are established for the purpose of obituary runs, as you already know. For example, All Moons No Post Game is a run that does not have an in-game reward or achievement signifying the accomplishment. Similarly, all sub-areas and all story moons are also like this. There's nothing that makes these runs less obituary than minimum captures. There is the primary goal to complete the objective, collect all available moons before Moon Kingdom is finished for the first time, collect all sub-areas, complete all sub-areas, collect all the story moons, skip all unnecessary captures, and then a secondary goal to what the fuck? Reset. Complete these goals. In defense of the minimum captures leaderboards, first of all, I obviously care about minimum captures more than most people. My goal is to re-establish the leaderboards is based on my passion for the category. This is, at its core, a biased opinion. Despite this, I still feel there is a very strong case, supported by logical reasoning, for the existence of an easily accessible and public minimum captures leaderboards on speedrun.com. I hope that you'll give this an honest read-through and consider my arguments in good faith. Leaderboard moderators, point 1. There's no reason to have minimum captures on a leaderboard because it merely can be done as a speedrun rather than having the purpose of being a speedrun. With point 1, the part of the statement saying it merely can be done as a speedrun is 100% correct. Minimum captures is something that can be done as a speedrun. It is not explicitly or implicitly stated as an in-game goal. There is no reward for beating the game with a minimum amount of captures. It is obituary, at least within the context of the game alone. This is clearly different from the main board speedruns, where the goal of the speedrun is simply to beat the game or complete a major goal defined within the game, obtain the world peace achievement, beat the dark side kingdom, etc. The confusion I have, though, is on category extension leaderboards. Category extension leaderboards are established for the purpose of obituary runs, as you already know. For example, All Moon's no post-game run is a run that does not have an in-game reward or achievement signifying accomplishment. Similarly, all sub-areas and all story moons are also like this. There's nothing that makes these runs less obituary than minimum captures. There is the primary goal to complete the objective, collect all available moons before the Moon Kingdom is finished for the first time, complete all sub-areas, collect all of the story moons, skip all unnecessary captures, and then the secondary goal is to complete those objectives as fast as possible. This can also be seen in other game leaderboards, including the other most popular speed games. On the Ocarina of Time category extension leaderboards, there are low percent categories, a low A+ challenge, a no inventory explosive category, etc., where at their core have the same goals as minimum captures, complete the game with a minimum amount of something. Ocarina of Time is not the only leaderboard that follows this trend. Super Mario 64 has Mario Cam RTA, which uses the least amount of Lakitu Cam. Important note here, the reasoning SM64 category extensions doesn't have a 0 A+ category, which would probably be considered the SM64 category of min caps, is because the category involves standing with Mario for 3 days while using Wii VC and therefore isn't a viable human runnable category. Super Mario Sunshine has hoverless, which, despite having an obituary goal, is on the main leaderboards, not even the category extensions. I could continue with many more examples, but I think I'm getting my point across. Minimum captures can be done as a speedrun, based on the current categories within the Super Mario Odyssey category extension leaderboards, and the precedent set by the other established speed games. It's clear that the overall goal of minimum captures, when derived, is no different than many other categories that currently exist on the leaderboards. It would not be fair to remove minimum captures when these categories with less notoriety and the same derived goals still remain. Leaderboard moderators point to, there's an increasing barrier to entry into ever completing a run, and thus there is a decline in people willing to run minimum captures, and so there is no reason to have a leaderboard for so few active runners. Also, that viewer level popularity is not a good metric for category popularity. At its core, this point is not regarding the difficulty of a run, but that the difficulty is causing a lack of runners, or decrease in willingness of people to complete runs, and that a lack of runners justifies the removal of category. However, looking at the current categories and category extension, it's clear that many categories have the same amount of activity, 1 to 3 active runners. Example, active runners defined by speedrun.com as runs done in the past month. Koopa Free Running RTA, 3 active runners. All story moons, 2 active runners. All moons and NPG, 1 active runner. All sub areas, 1 active runner. All captures, 1 active runner. All music, 1 active runner. Star percent, 0 active runners. In the previous True Min Caps category, 9 caps, Ofer, Nicrovita, and I were running the category actively, attempting to push down the record time. About the same amount of active runners as most category extensions. If only 2 or 3 active runners in the other category extensions justifies their existence, it justifies the existence of min caps as well. A rebuttal that has been completely commonly used against this point is that even though the other categories have just a couple active runners, there's still a relatively large amount of overall runners who have ever submitted. This argument is not one that holds any weight currently, since runs take time to learn, practice, and submit, especially in the case of a difficult category when new skips are found, and many speedrunners have to wait for a break in their schedule to try out new runs. Furthermore, the new min capture leaderboards previously had a comparable amount of runners to the rest of the category extensions, so even counting previous runners, min caps has more than justified its existence in this way. At this point, I feel that I have provided enough proof to show that the number of active runners of min caps meets community standards. However, I also feel that I should address the core idea that a category requires active runners to be valid. This idea feels incompatible with the speedrunning community as I have seen it. I see fans poring over old runs and leaderboards for content to watch, tricks to learn, and times to gawk at. I see runners actively seeking categories that haven't been run in a while to give them a try and breathe new life into them. I see categories that have been essentially dead for months or even years being cracked open by new discovery and having an influx of interest. The leaderboards are not only there to track the active progress of runners today, They exist as a resource for the entire world to use in the past, present, and future. In response to this, many people in the community have brought up the fact that a spreadsheet tracks time just as well as speedrun.com leaderboards. While technically true, there are a large number of benefits to having a dedicated, centralized, and accessible leaderboard on the most popular speedrunning website in the world. I'm fortunate enough to not need leaderboards to lead no viewers to my stream and YouTube channel, but many other runners don't have that advantage. A fan of the game coming to browse speedrun.com casually is not only extremely unlikely to discover a link to a spreadsheet of runs, but also would almost certainly discount those times as less official, important, interesting, or relatively simply for the fact that they don't even get the basic honor of a place on speedrun.com. Each time a category is ignored or goes unseen by a potential viewer, the runners are the ones who lose out. Consider runners like Ofer, who don't currently have a following. Were Ofer to decide to grow a community, a place on speedrun.com leaderboard could potentially provide a massive boost and reward his hard work to gain a place on that leaderboard, essentially with the interest generated by larger runners like Nitro and me being directed there. If the leaderboard were hidden behind the Google Sheets link instead of directly on the speedrun.com page where fans have come to expect any and all categories to be, most of those prospective viewers on SRC are going to give up and go back to watching someone else. I'm worried that should this trend on the SMO categories extension moderator, cleaning the leaderboards, and focusing only on the runners' wants and needs continue, speedrun.com will no longer be the community we've come to love and know. While I understand the sentiment that the runners are fundamentally more important to the leaderboards than the viewers, I worry that the desire to further move towards a leaderboard that cares only about the runners will end up harming the wonderfully diverse collection of runners, fans, and categories which currently make their home on SRC. To the fans, to the prospective runners, to the future and past community members, a place on their leaderboards isn't just about having active runner interest. It's about being a category that people may have interest in that could be run and run well. And it's about building the perfect home for the ultimate list of speedruns. I believe that MinCaps has more than met these qualifications. Leaderboard moderators point 3. 3 captures is a challenge run, and there's no reason to have it as a speed run because it is too obituary, similar to how we deleted jump lists. Since 3 captures isn't on the leaderboard, it was too obituary to have the other on a leaderboard also. I have previously addressed the legitimacy of the MinCap speedrun and the reasons for which it deserves a spot on speedrun.com in my rebuttals of point 1 and 2, so I won't be rehashing that section. Instead, I will be expressing my opinion on what the category should be going forward. So obviously, I want 3 captures to have a place on the leaderboard. 3 captures is to me the most faithful to the original category idea of minimum captures any percent. It finishes the game with as few captures as possible while going as fast as possible. No matter what it takes. More than that, though, I also firmly believe 4, 12, and 13 captures belong on the leaderboard. The precedent has long been set that we isolate variables, which may cause significant differences in submitted runs, and provide methods for distinguishing the different subcategories. For MinCaps 3, the variables are the number of players in the game. Version 3 caps requires both version 1.0 and 2 player, both of which are more than unusual and run changing enough to justify distinction on the leaderboards. Each run has its own merits and style, and each is a perfectly valid minimum captures run, as each subcategory is based on natural divisions. This idea is consistent with nearly every leaderboard in other games and categories. On the Breath of the Wild category extensions, they include amiibo and bug limit subcategories, not because people run them, but because it is important to have them for complete record of feasible and sensible runs. Ocarina of Time category extensions also have several low percent subcategories that do not even have any runs for the same reason. Nipple percent has a no hint art category as well. Conclusion. By now, I feel that I have provided an abundance of evidence supporting MinCap's place on speedrun.com SMO category extensions leaderboards. I've laid out and directly responded to each reason that I was given for the removal of MinCaps from the leaderboards. I've included the reasons for why I believe MinCaps to be a valid, logical, and interesting category, and not an inconsequential run. Minimum captures has been the premier low percent run for at least as long as I've been a part of the community. Captures are the primary mechanic of Odyssey as compared to previous Mario titles, making them an interesting metric to minimize. Moreover, the tricks required to skip captures are both interesting and difficult and keep the category fresh where otherwise it may have faltered. As you probably know, it was the infinite nut jump glitch that made me decide to make the switch from any percent, which was beginning to feel stale for me, among other issues, to minimum captures. it is because of these reasons and more that I firmly believe that min caps belongs on the Odyssey category extension leaderboard, so much that I have offered to personally moderate and verify the entire minimum captures section of the leaderboard. The response I'm expecting from you as a moderator is an explanation as to why minimum captures does not belong beyond what I've already argued against here. What logical reason is there to not have it on the leaderboards? That run was fucking garbage, but okay.